Children have a very odd way of expressing their emotions towards any situation, and they typically take things to the extreme when reacting to different experiences that they're not typically aware of what's going on. And with that being said, aggression is a very common issue within a children's life since it is an emotion that they're not used to all the time, and it can be very difficult for them to understand. Then children turn to hostility and, in some cases, violence if it's not treated in time. This type of aggression is not just something that they are born with, though. It is something that has a driving force. And with the driving force, it can be due to their possible mental state or any past trauma they may experience, and then the aggression will be led into a lack of treatment when they're at a young age. That's when they tend to go to the more aggressive and hostile route in their future. Now, for the first driving force that I mentioned was the child's mental state and how that could add to the possible aggression that they show in their future. This relates all to the developmental stage in their life. And through these stages, this is when they're learning how to cope with their problems. And if they are not given any way to cope with them, that's why the aggression tends to kick in. Also, children tend to mimic what's going on around them. So if they only see anger within the household, then it simply is just reciprocated in their actions. And if their home life may be abusive, then they begin to act the same way. Changing their mental state from positive to negative is a big impact. So like I said, with the whole abuse, that's going from a child to being very happy as a possibility, but as soon as they see these actions, they can take it in a very negative way and express it in aggression, which leads to the idea that you have to address these mentalities and really help them at a young age to comprehend everything that's going on in their household. Or, like I said, again, it will just lead to aggression, and studies have shown that aggressive households will lead to aggressive behavior in the future and lack of success in their life. Another driving force that would be any sort of PTSD. This is just another branch off of the mental state, and PTSD really ties in with mental state pretty well, since this is a disease that affects the mentality of anybody who experienced some sort of trauma. For children, the most impactful that was mentioned through research was anything that has to do with a family member or anything that ties in with their said family. Or any other experiences with abuse. So any sort of maltreatment is an extent of violence that a child would have to experience or go through at a young age. It overall is a scary situation for anybody to experience, let alone someone so young who does not know how to cope with these sorts of things. During a child's mental growth, this can be very impactful. Since this is very impactful, that is the time that you need to seek treatment for these young adults or minors that just need some guidance on how to understand the situation and really get the questions answered that they need. Now, with that being said, the parents of these children think that their child may be too young and emotionally inexperienced to feel this much anger. The emotion of children can be felt at a more deeper level than adults may, and anger is actually one of the most common emotions for a human to feel, and is actually the earliest emotion for a human to portray. Certain parents do not think that this treatment may be necessary and may be in denial about the whole situation since they don't see a problem to begin with, and parents just typically don't want to believe that something may be wrong with their child to an extent that they need some psychological help, so they repress the thought of possibly taking their kid to any type of psychological instruction. This way, this is a way of just ignoring the problem and the emotion of anger completely, which parents need to get over their emotions and just look at the better good for the long-term purpose of their child. Children act upon the knowledge and emotions, which leads to aggression from their mental state, past trauma, and the lack of treatment from an early age, which the idea of child aggression is often overlooked and typically not taken serious until later in life. Overall, the lack of knowledge towards the situation is the problem, and it is more important than many may think. With the new understanding over child psychology and how impactful it can be in the future, if there are issues, it can only be beneficial if people are not in denial over finding help and will reach out to someone to better their lives.